March is Women's History Month, and this is day 6 of talking about strong women. Today, we're going to the arts and a Miss Augusta Savage, and let's talk about why you need to know who she is. We've talked about women of all different backgrounds, and today we're talking about someone from the arts and her contribution, and she was an amazing woman. Miss Augusta Savage was born February 29th, 1892. She was born into a very conservative family. From a very young age, she liked to take the red clay that was found on the land where they lived and sculpt small animals. Her dad thought that that was creating idols and used to beat her. One article said that he kicked her 5 or 6 times a week, or another one said he whipped her 5 or 6 times a week. But either way, she said, and I quote, "He almost beat or almost whipped all the art out of me." In 1915, when she was in school, still in school, she found a teacher that really liked her work and gave her clay and let her do all the sculpting that she wanted. Miss Augusta was married 3 times in her life, once in 1907, and he passed away after the birth of their daughter. Again, in 1915, she divorced that gentleman and shortly thereafter moved to New York, and again in 1923. After the death of her first husband in 1919, she entered a county fair and was given a prize, and also was given a letter by a gentleman who appreciated her work so she could go to school. She left to go to school in New York in 1921 and had $4.60 in her pocket. And this letter from Mr. George, I can't remember his last name, I can't even read my own notes, sorry. But anyway, when she got to New York with her $4.60, she met a very famous sculptor there, Mr. Salon Borglum. I apologize, I cannot say his name correctly. He encouraged her to go to the School of American Sculpting, but unfortunately she could not afford the tuition, so he recommended that she go to a place called Cooper Union, which was a scholarship school. They liked her work a lot, so much in fact that she got into the school, get this, before 121 men who were on the waiting list. Go girl. They liked her work so much, too, that when she lost her job that was paying for her living expenses, they also came up with the funds to pay for her apartment and her living expenses when she went there. She completed her 4-year degree at Cooper Union in a mere 3. I like her. After she got out of school, of course, art isn't just something that you can apply for, so she was unable to find work and went to work in the laundry. By this time, her family had also moved from Florida to New York and were living in her very tiny apartment because her dad had become paralyzed and she was supporting everyone. Oh my goodness. By 1923, her work was becoming more popular. She liked to write poetry and do art and sculptures of people around her neighborhood and her community where she lived in Harlem. And her work was becoming more famous, and she got her first commission from the New York Library. That led to more commissions. By 1923, she was getting very popular and applied to the very prestigious Fontainebleau School of Fine Arts in Paris and was accepted. However, when the American Selection Committee found out that she was black, they rescinded the offer. Because it's so important what color your skin is when you're creating great art, right? Yeah, so important. Anyway, she not only wrote to them, but wrote to the school in Paris, who fought hard for her, but they would not back down, and so it went to several papers, and this went back and forth, and it didn't do any good. But sweet Miss Savage continued working and continued writing poetry and hosting luminaries of her day and all kinds of art in her little tiny library, and just kept trudging on, even though she said at one point she did want to quit. She loved her art and was not going to give up. In 1925, she applied to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Rome. They accepted her, and she was all set to go, except all they paid for was the tuition, and she didn't have any way to pay for her living expenses there, so she didn't get to go. Finally, in 1929, with the help of the Carnegie Foundation and the Urban League and several other groups that wanted to help her get to where she needed to be, she was accepted to an art academy in Paris, and was able to go, finished her training there and her education there, and toured Europe for a little while with her artwork. She finally returned to the United States in 1931, if I'm reading my notes right, and very shortly thereafter opened up a Savage studio in Harlem, and ended up having a couple of galleries of her own too, and taught many thousands of people and influenced many thousands of people in the arts. In 1931, she was the first African American to be accepted into the National Association of Women Painters and Sculptors. Way to go, Miss Savage. She went through lots of ups and downs, as she said, but never gave up because she loved her art. She ended up having her own studio, her own galleries, and influenced many people in her community in the arts. So today, day 6 of Women's History Month, Miss Augusta Savage, we salute you.